Hi, I'm Lise Colucci. Let me move that. Hi. Hello. I'm Lise Colucci, and I'm one of the life coaches at queenbeing.com, where we help you to discover, understand, and overcome narcissistic abuse in toxic relationships. Hello to everyone here today, and welcome. I'm just going to start off by saying if you have not subscribed to this channel, please do so if you are interested in receiving notifications of when I go live. I'm trying to go live minimally 3 times a week, hoping for 5 eventually. But right now we're at 3. So you can text me at 33222. Put the words Lise Live, Liselive, in the text, and I will send you a text about 10 minutes prior to going live, and that is the only text I send. So there's that. And again, if you enjoy this video or any of the videos, please hit the thumbs up so that we are aware of what you guys need, want, and like, and what's helping you. So here we go. Hello. Hello to, I was going to say hello to myself. I'm looking at the chat that I started talking in. Hi, Karina and Butterfly Mama and Svenusha. Hello. So today let's talk about an overview of narcissistic abuse. We talked earlier this week about, was it this week? We talked earlier about how to, a video for families and friends so that they can understand what is going on. And this is kind of along those lines. Most people who are here already know what narcissistic abuse is, or they are learning about it, or they have some idea, right? So let's talk for people who may not know or don't know what's happening or what's going through them kind of from the beginning. And let's do some kind of basic, this is narcissistic abuse talk today. Tomorrow I have a much more lighthearted and fun topic to help. It's about thriving. Tomorrow's about thriving. Today's about the narcissist. So let's do this. All right. So narcissistic abuse is in cycles. They do in the beginning what is called grooming, where they basically attach to another person through a process of grooming, which is mirroring people's likes and dislikes, mirroring behaviors, luring people in with kindness, with putting on a mask, a false persona that makes a person think you're something that you're not. They love bomb in the beginning. They love bomb by being always available, being exactly what a person needs. And part of the grooming process is they learn the vulnerabilities. We all do this to an extent. We learn people's vulnerabilities and the things they've been through in their life, right? This is part of getting to know someone. What a narcissist does with that information is they take it and they use it against you later on. And they take it and they use it to be the thing to bond to you with, which is the grooming part. So they take what's a normal, way of getting to know someone and they twist it around to be something to use toward their aim of having you as supply. And they don't necessarily think, I want you as supply. What they are thinking is they want that person to be with them. It's So with that, as they're grooming you, they're love bombing you. They're giving you gifts, maybe. They are taking you out. They're being lavish and extravagant, or they're being really kind to you, or they're being really affectionate towards you, or it's over the top, usually only to the point where it doesn't feel so creepy you run, right? So it's usually something you need. When they're grooming you, if they feel like you've never had anyone really love you, they're going to give you all this love, because then they're giving you the thing you've always needed and you need them. So through grooming, they're creating a need. They're creating a need in you that you have toward them. So they're hooking you in and making it so that you need them. And then what happens is the love bombing may continue for a while. They love bomb you, I don't know, it can be years, honestly, without a whole lot of chaos, or it can be weeks or months, or it can be anything, really. Then the devaluing starts, and what we call the love bomb devalue cycle begins. And through the love bombing, which, you can, just the word love bombing is pretty self-explanatory, overly loving, overly giving, overly kind, overly affectionate. And by overly, it can look different. It's only as overly as they have to be, because they can be pretty lazy about it. If they don't have to go to extremes, they're not gonna, right? They don't have to, then they're not going to. But Often they do, because I think they get wrapped up in the newness of relationship as well. And they get wrapped up in the excitement of giving that love bombing energy to someone. They get wrapped up in what it does to you, right? The reaction it has in you, so that they can take it as supply. So when the devaluing starts, that can look like a lot of things. It can be arguments that don't need to be there. It can be slowly putting you down. It can be calling you names out of nowhere. It can be temper tantrums, silent treatments. What are some other ways, you guys, that they devalue? Just off the top of my head, I'm doing this pretty much from the top of my head, so we're getting what I got today. The devaluing can look like, well, in the beginning, it looks a lot less like devaluing, and it looks more like you're doing something wrong. Basically, what happens in the devaluing is the pattern is created that you feel like something you're doing is wrong. Something you're doing isn't pleasing. Something you're doing is not enough. Something you're doing is upsetting this other person. And so you feel in the devalue like you need to fix it. And when you beg and plead and change your ways and do everything it is to make this person happy, and then they give you a little bit of a reward, which is more love bombing, that's when the cycle continues. Telling other things behind your back. Yeah, there's all kinds of ways for devaluing. I'm not going to go into all of them because that would be a whole video all by itself. So, and there's a whole bunch of other stuff we want to talk about here. So the love bomb and the devalue cycle is the nature of the narcissistic abusive relationship. That's how they relate within the relationship. It's basically the core of how they act in a relationship. They love bomb when they feel like it, when they are giving you crumbs, and then they devalue the rest of the time. And what happens usually is the relationships degenerate over the years to where it's more like devalue love bomb, where devalue is the more heavily weighted thing, and the love bombing comes in small doses, what we call crumbs. And everyone can relate to what a crumb of affection is. That's what we get at the end. And the reason we don't leave is the trauma bond that sets up. So all of that sets up what's called the trauma bond. And that is from this cycle repeated over and over again. And really, you need to see a whole video on what trauma bonds are to understand how deeply affecting and how deeply difficult they are to get out of for the person who's in it. So I would suggest to anyone who is not been through this, who is showing this to someone to help them understand, that they then go watch a video on trauma bonding so they understand that's why we stay. Okay, but this is about the cycle and what they do and what the abuse is like. So we're going to keep going. So when that cycle goes on enough, there is usually a discard that happens. Either you leave the narcissist, which is the ideal, or they discard you, which means they just end it. They leave, they walk away. Within this, there can be all kinds of reasons for the discard, okay? It doesn't really matter what the reason is. The point is that this is part of the cycle. When the devaluing gets to a certain point, or when they choose to, or when they found better supply, it doesn't matter why. Whatever the reason is, the discard will happen. When the discard happens, or it won't happen, and you have to be the one to leave. Some of them will just stay forever in this love bomb devalue cycle. But there's many discards in there. Extended silent treatments, disappearing for a long time, threatening to leave, actually packing bags and leaving, but then coming right back. That kind of thing can happen. But a true discard where they're like actually gone will happen. And then generally there's a Hoover. Hoover is meaning that they suck you back in. So they may, in one day, in one breath, walk away and leave and text you 5 minutes later how much they love you. It can be that crazy. They can't, and how they miss you and want you back, how we should make it work, blah, blah, blah. Basically I'm going to take my toys and go, and they do. And then they say, wait a minute, that didn't work. They didn't chase me. And, even if you did chase them, it doesn't matter. This is part of the cycle. So the discard Hoover cycle becomes the love bomb and devalue cycle, so to speak. It just keeps looping. Some narcissists don't Hoover traditionally. They don't suck you back in by sending flowers and coming and, on bended knee, I'm so sorry. They don't do it through, I'll change my ways, baby. They don't do it through that stuff. They do it through covert and often negative ways. So in other words, they'll stay in your periphery of your life so that you can't forget about them. They'll do things like smear you. That's in effect, it's trying to keep your supply. So in effect, it's similar to a Hoover. It keeps you paying attention to them. They will send in flying monkeys. They'll send in other people to do their bidding for them. That's all kind of a Hoover back to them. They'll triangulate. They will talk to a mutual friend or family member and maybe say something. This is an example. They may say something like, oh, you know, they were saying bad things about you. So that then that person says, so-and-so said you said bad things about me. And then you talk and you say, no, wait a minute. They're the ones. So you see, it triangulates it all back to them. So all kinds of ways they can Hoover that don't look like traditional, I want you back Hoovers. Some of them are bizarre and covert and not necessarily positive. Anyway, that cycle goes on and on and on and on. Who's in here? Talk to me, guys. You guys are quiet today. That cycle goes on, and it doesn't stop until we make a break and go no contact. This is why no contact is important. So even though no contact is not part of the abuse cycle, no contact is the end of the abuse cycle. It's the way to end it. It's the way to keep it as clean as you can from having the influence of a toxic person. So what are some ways, an overview of what are some ways that the abuse can affect you? So there's emotional and psychological abuse. The emotional and psychological abuse is what we think of the most, or is the most talked about, maybe. The gaslighting and projecting and love bomb and devalue and the things that they do psychologically to you can be so minute and covert that it's impossible to talk about. Because in isolation, the things look like minor things. But in the scope of it, in the larger scheme, it's huge and it's pervasive. So hello, Laura. So and web education, hello. So the emotional and psychological abuse breaks a person down. The gaslighting is confusing. It creates what's called cognitive dissonance. That cognitive dissonance is a person feeling yes and no at the same time, feeling I love them, they're bad for me at the same time. It's a push-pull that becomes an internal thing for the survivor that is tied into the trauma bonds. I hope I'm making sense. I'm using lots of words here. But you can look up each of these things and watch a video specifically on each one if it confuses you, or if you need to talk about it and you're in here, talk to me. So that cognitive dissonance and then, you know, that leads to the trauma bonding or is part of the trauma bonding rather, it's all tied into this emotional factor of the way the abuse affects us. From friendships with your friends and talk about you and tell you about it. Yep. That's the triangulation thing. It's psychological murder, really, says Venusia. It really is. Hello, Iraq Freedom. It is psychologically degenerative to somebody else's psyche to be around somebody who is a narcissistic abuser, because narcissists have no empathy and they have no ability to be accountable, or they refuse to be accountable for their own psychological experiences, their own states, their own actions. So they put it onto the other person through these manipulative tactics, which psychologically affect the other person. They break us down. What are some of the ways you feel psychologically affected, you guys? Low self-esteem, like completely lost, don't know what to think or how to behave, on your own. People pleasing, fawning type of behaviors, isolated, alone, totally alone. That's one of the hardest ones. What else? Confused, like it's your fault, stupid, a failure. It affects your self-esteem, your self-worth, your ability to have self-love and express it. Your self-care goes out the window. So you see, this is all, it's very, very toxic and it's very bad for a person. So let's keep moving though. Detached from the world and yourself. Yes. You avoid people. This is what people are saying in chat. Okay. Yeah, you guys. So the emotional abuse is, we think of things like gaslighting. What are some other ways they abuse us emotionally? Gaslighting, projecting, lying, name calling, devaluing, criticism. Sometimes they'll devalue you to your face and then pick one thing to highlight about how wonderful you are. So they devalue you and lift you up at the same time. If that's not confusing, I don't know what is, right? How else do they do it? Just off the top of my head here, I'm not thinking of anything else. What other ways do they tactics do they have for emotional abuse that people can watch out for? Making you unsure of yourself. Yes, it does. A lot of it is so much of it is through gaslighting. That's what's stuck in my head because it all comes back to how they gaslight, withholding, silent treatment. They make you second guess yourself because they put doubt into you through the way they treat you. All right. So another form of emotion of narcissistic abuse is spiritual abuse. Somebody said this, the reason I'm doing this 1 second is because somebody said it's murder of the whole soul. It really is. So spiritual abuse, we think of more on the level of coming into somebody's spiritual beliefs, no matter what your religion is. I'm going to use the word spiritual beliefs because it could be any religion, it doesn't matter. And effectively altering the way you feel about it through manipulation. It's usually controlling, gaslighting, things that they might put the fear of God in you, so to speak, by changing the way you know something is in your own belief system. They manipulate it so that they're in control of that. Does that make sense? I'm not explaining this. They do the same thing that cults do to people when they join by separating them and keeping them distant from others. That's true. That's true. It's the isolation. And that goes into every form of abuse that we're going to mention here. That isolation, they do that by devaluing your friends, devaluing your work, devaluing everything else around you, or guilting you into staying with them versus going and doing what you wish to do in your life, or making you so busy that you can't do anything in your life by running you around. And the reason you run around is because if you don't, then they'll leave you. If you don't, then they'll get mad at you. If you don't, it's exhausting. It sounds like, well, why don't you just walk away? But we have to understand trauma bonds, and they have to understand this doesn't happen overnight. This is a slowly progressive thing. So spiritual abuse, let's go back to that. They text bomb you. Okay, we're just going to go with everything here. Mine would make me so busy and then complain I didn't do anything. Exactly. And then the devaluing of the things that you did do makes you work harder tomorrow, doesn't it? It seems like it would be the opposite, and you just throw your hands up and say, forget it. But no, there's this need to please a narcissist because they have the air of everyone needs to please them. And it creates this need to please them. It's part of the way they control. The texting was constant. Yes, they're constantly in communication with you, so you can have no freedom from them. Yeah. When they affect somebody's spiritual life, it can be extremely confusing for the person because they don't know what to believe at that point. They know they have a belief system. It's like pouring a little bit of arsenic into somebody's drink. You know what I mean? It's slowly poisoning someone from the thing that they believe. It's slowly poisoning and making something toxic that was once a solace and a refuge to someone. That's what happens when they get in your spiritual life. I don't have a whole lot of examples off the top of my head. I could think of some if my mind would go there, but it's not. So we're going to move on. Sexual abuse. Yes, it is. Sorry, but it is. I just did 2 over an hour videos on this topic. And the consensus was most people felt controlled and abused within the sexual relationship with a narcissist. They're controlling, number one, the place where people find the most deep and intimate connection with another person. And they twist it around, they break your boundaries, or they push your boundaries to where you are doing things you don't wish to be doing, which is coercive. They use withholding or over-sexualization as means of control. So in other words, they won't give their partner any affection, intimacy, or sex, or they want it when they want it, as they want it, or else. They threaten with other people. They threaten with leaving. They threaten, right? They use it as a means of control. They objectify because they can't connect emotionally and deeply on a deep level with someone else because they don't have the ability to have empathy. Then it's just about, basically they use people, they use you sexually. So there's that. And that can leave a person in all kinds of states of confusion and disgust and change their own feelings about their own sexuality. So in their own sexual experience, which takes time to heal from. So that's there. There were a few, Well Education says there were a few times when she spoke to me as though I were an object, objectifying. Yes. She said once, "Oh, I'm going to have fun with you." Sounded weird and creepy, not joking, but she shrugged it off. Yeah. Little things like that would slip from her mouth every now and again. It sure does. They let it slip. And we don't hear it the same as we do afterward, right? Mine would push into me sexually and then pull away afterwards. Exactly. And that's true too. They can withhold affection after sex, which can be emotionally devastating in a partnership, right? Mine used to say he was going to punish me during sex. Oh yeah. Oh, there's a lot of sadistic narcissists out there too that actually do punish, and they use it as punishment. They use it as control, as something they're giving you, as punishment, as all kinds of things. So that's a big one. We don't think of it as, that they're sexual abusers, but in a sense they are, because how can you be consensual when you don't know the terms, right? The terms are not laid out. Okay, I have no empathy. I have no ability to actually connect with you, but I want to have sex. You ready? If those were the terms and you said yes, then it wouldn't be coercion, but they coerce you because there's the guise that you're in some sort of real intimate relationship with this person. And it's not, as we know, because of the fact that they don't have empathy and they can't be accountable, that it's not true. So you never know when you're pulling away. So it's not true. It's not truly engaging in something that you know the terms of, is what my point was. All right. Another way they might abuse you is physically. I don't mean physical abuse as in physical abuse as we think of it, as in beating or hitting, or yes, that can happen. I'm not going to talk about that here. It's another topic, and it goes down a different route. The path that I'm taking, if that has happened to you, I'm not diminishing it at all. And a lot of narcissists are also physically abusive, but the majority, or from what I understand, the majority are not. And it's not necessarily something we put together as that's the reason that they are physically abusive. They probably have other diagnoses which makes them physically abusive as well. But certainly a narcissist, and definitely a psychopath, can be physically abusive in the sense of harming you in a hitting or pushing, pulling, slapping, pinching, beating kind of way. What I'm talking about here physically is also things like sleep deprivation. Sleep abuse is huge. They like glaring at you, hopefully after you've hurt yourself, rather than helping you. Right. Yeah. Seems like they never know never knew you when pulling away. No, it does. Yeah. It's like when they pull away, it's like they're a different person. It literally feels like a different person. So sleep abuse is, or laughing at you when you're in pain. Exactly. How many of you have had sleep abuse? Just of people who are in here. They do things like make noise when you're sleeping. They wake you up. They turn lights on. They don't let you go to bed when you need to go to bed, when you got to get up early. They start arguments at bedtime like clockwork. They start arguments at bedtime. Number one, it goes into the sexual realm because that tends to be when people connect at night, right? And number two, it keeps you from going to sleep. They want you sleep deprived. They rage at you after waking you. Yes, they do. They ask you questions when they wake you that no one could possibly answer half asleep, and then start to devalue you for your reply. When you don't reply with enthusiasm in the middle of the night to their waking you for something, then they start to the devalue cycle and they go into whatever it is so that they can go to bed. Then this is the classic. Then they roll over and go to sleep, thus giving you the silent treatment, and they fall asleep like a brick while you're sitting there in tears, not knowing what hit you, freaking out, wanting to have a conversation about what just happened. Oh no, it's the perfect time to give the nighttime slumber silent treatment, because then what can happen? They can wake up in the morning. They can either still be in the toxic cycle, or they can make you grovel, or they can love bomb you. It's a setup for the next day. It's horrible. So explain to us why the narcissist gets so upset when we are sick and need their help to feel better. That's another good one with physically. When you are sick, when you are injured, when you need physical help from someone else, that is when they tend, not always, some of them will cater to you then, but it's weird. It's not like loving, caring, oh, let's cuddle. I know your back hurts. Let's just sit here and watch television together or whatever. Let's watch a movie. It's not like that usually. Sometimes it can be like that for a little bit, then they get bored. But often they're dismissive. They get angry at you when you're sick. Like they may be okay for the first hour or two or half a day, and then they're angry with you. They're angry. They pick fights when you're sick. They belittle you. They criticize you. They do everything. They don't help. They complain about what you're not doing. All of that stuff when you're sick and when you need the help the most. Why they do that? Because they're not getting attention, because your supply is going toward your own healing, because it's the ultimate gray rocking when you're sick. You're laying there feeling like crap and you're rolled up in a ball and you've got the blankets up over your head and you're not talking to anyone. To them, that's like, it's lacking of supply. So yeah, it's them not getting their way and behaving like spoiled people that they are, and they don't have it to give. So if they don't have it to give and there's nothing coming for them to get, then they get irritated and they get mad. Jess says, once she shook me because I was falling asleep during a movie and then left. Oh yeah. Yeah. Right. They don't like it when you try to sleep. They like to keep that high level or low level sleep deprivation at all times going. The problem with it is the worst part is that can last for so long after they're gone, because our bodies are little clocks, right? And we get our clocks for sleep going, and it is really hard to change that. Once you're in a sleep deprivation cycle, it can be hard to not have insomnia at night. Guilty. It can be hard to not have, it's a very difficult one, because it's stuff that goes on a level of nothing you can really do to control it. You can do everything you can to try and help it, but it's not something like, okay, well, I just need to walk an extra mile and I'll lose that pound. No, it's confusing and difficult to heal from sleep deprivation, I think, and to change the patterns that it sets up. Web Education says their need was so deep. I would take care of her house, my house, work overtime, and they'd say I never do anything. Slamming doors in the morning. Yes, she could sleep on a dime. Right. They make life hell for you when you're sick. They sure do. They bang pots and pans in the kitchen. Oh yeah, they make lots of noise when they're doing things, don't they? Some of them. And then they made like they had to make food. It's like having a relationship with a poltergeist in the night. Oh my gosh, yes. Web Education, she would sleep, leaving me to do everything else. Many nights I did not even shower. They're super noisy, right? All right, so what are other physical ways? So often survivors, because of the stress and the raised cortisol and other reasons, often survivors start to have issues with their bodies. They get ill. They have illnesses. I mean, I can't prove this. I don't know this scientifically. I just know incidentally and through stories and through my own experience that pain levels rise. Things like autoimmune things come up. Weight gain happens or weight loss happens. Our diet and our eating becomes erratic because of them. Acquired autoimmune immune condition during all of this is what Web Education said. It's very having toxic relationships is toxic on the body. Let's just put it that way. And physically, it does a number on you. So yeah, it's bad. They may do other things like push you physically to do things you can't or shouldn't be doing for your body. And they just don't care. And so they do what they want. Anyway, let me go on with this. Let me ask you an existential question. Okay. Is it ever right or good to sacrifice your entire self for somebody else? How can you? How can you have anything left to give is my reply. If you sacrifice your entire self for someone else, it would be a momentary action that would extinguish you, right? How could you do that on a sustained basis if you have nothing left for self? I do not think it is good or right. I don't know if that's existential or moral or what, but I think that if you are a giver and you enjoy giving, and you have healthy people in your life that you're giving to, you still need something for yourself. You're still included in the equation of who the people are you give to. And so therefore you can't give everything to somebody else, right? And if somebody is not giving in return, I mean, I can see like situations where you might have to give extreme amounts of oneself, a sick child maybe, like where you have to give extreme amounts of oneself in order to maintain the other person's well-being as best you can. I can see extreme situations, not with a narcissist. No, with a narcissist, no, don't give them anything. Only people who, number one, can give back or who are kind and loving and deserve the giving, who maybe can't give back for their own illness or injury or something, right? That's a different situation. But even then, you need to have something coming back towards yourself, or else you have nothing left to give and you're not a happy person. So, I always felt I had stomach pain and pelvic pain. A lot of people get stomach pain and pelvic pain. The nervous system goes. Okay, the nervous system is part of the reaction to abuse. Our nervous systems just go. We can't stop the nervous system from doing what the nervous system's going to do. And sometimes it creates a stomach ache and it creates anxiety, and anxiety creates other pains and aches and body reactions and things like digestive issues and all kinds of things. It makes you sick. It makes you sick to be with someone toxic. It physically makes you sick. So let's go on to financial abuse. What are ways they financially abuse? Okay, well, they can out and out take your money. They can, live off of you like a sponge and drain you dry. They can coerce you into financial situations that are not good for you and drain your funds that way. They can control all the money and not allow you to work, not allow you to make your own money. And by saying not allow, that sounds very archaic and like, how could that even happen these days? But it happens more than you think. And it's not somebody saying, you won't work, little lady, or you won't work, mister. It's a slow coercion into that position. Right? It feels like partnership, and that one of you is totally fine. One person can be financially the breadwinner, so to speak, and one person can take care of other things. It's not a bad template. It's just with a narcissist, it's a very extremely scary and toxic template, right? I'm not criticizing anyone's lifestyle. You can live however you want, but if you do it with a narcissist, just know that financial abuse is in there. Mine manipulated me to take out loans I couldn't afford to pay back. Right. And they manipulate you to do so slowly and pervasively. We're not stupid, right? This isn't just coming out of nowhere. My mother taught us the most important thing in life was to sacrifice yourself for others, your entire self. Wow. Mom sounds like she had a lot of codependency going on, most likely, or guilt that made her, that was how she found any self-worth, or I don't even know. I don't know your mom, but I would say we need to take care. I mean, a healthy person that is a giving person also takes care of themselves for whatever that means to them, right? Angela is saying not give you access to accounts, so you need to ask for an allowance. Yep, that's one way. I told not to bother working because the salary is too low. Right, and it makes sense. It's not that it's not a criticism on anyone who financially has been in a situation with a narcissist paying the one with the salaried job, because it makes sense especially if you have kids together. If you're going to make less than it costs to pay in childcare, why would you take the job, right? But then what happens is you're financially beholden and under the thumb of a narcissist. So, right? You have to know your partner, I guess, to safely be in a financial situation like that. To sacrifice yourself on behalf of others is a commendable thing, but if you give all of yourself, what remains? Exactly. There's nothing there to give from. You're an empty. Butterfly Mama says he keeps me busy, so busy for him that I wasn't able to work. Exactly. They can keep you running around. You can't even focus when you're with a narcissist half the time because they run you ragged. They run you all over the place. They have you. And again, it's slowly built in. It's not like suddenly you're handed a task list. If you don't do the thing, it's keeping peace is more important than saying, no, I don't have time for that. For most of us, that's the problem, right? He rationalized it's best for me to take care of the home, etc. Of course. And rationally, it may have been, right? And rationally, if you look at it on paper, it may absolutely have been made more sense. But the fact that he's a narcissist means he's going to be in control of that money, which then puts you in the position. It's not because it's nothing you did. It's the manipulative control and the need for them to then control the money. So, all right. So financially, what's other ways people either come out in finance, they may even keep it separate. Okay. They may even keep the finances separate. Let's imagine this. Then what? Everything is separate. So here's a weird one with financial control, with keeping things separate. He used to buy a gift for anyone and then buy the same gift for himself. In a sense, to me, that felt like a financial control situation because it meant that he'll only spend on someone else what he's willing to spend on himself. And it has to be equal. So it was almost like keeping the finances separate, while it was a good thing in the long run, was a form of control. Does that make sense? And we all have a right to financially control our own lives, of course. That's not what I mean. I mean, it was a form of control within a relationship. Yeah. My mother, the mother that I just mentioned on her deathbed, said to me, please don't end up like me, after telling us that her entire life to be exactly like her. Right? Yeah. And there's your clue. They give it to us. Yeah. Yeah, we have to give back to self. I can't see how ever giving 100% of yourself would be okay. I'm trying to think of people like Mother Teresa and the Dalai Lama right now in my head, and people that spend their life in service to humanity. I would bet that they have some self-care rituals built in. I would bet that while they may be very selfless in a lot of ways, number one, they have a support system and an infrastructure in their lives set up so that they can live their life that way. I couldn't just walk away from everything and do that. Could you? Right? No, because the infrastructure is not there to do it. So just that in itself is having something giving back to them. Somebody feeds them, somebody helps them live. So you can't give 100%. It's toxic. To say that to someone. Let's see. Okay. My money was his and his money was his. Exactly. That's often the case. My ex would give me gifts for him to give my gifts from him to other people. Who does this? Not regifting, just outright. I'm going to give this to so-and-so. Wow. Yeah. Okay. What are other ways what are other forms or things you want to add to this overview for the next 10 minutes? Or if you guys have anything you want to talk about today or any questions, concerns, problems, issues, hit me with it and we'll talk about you instead of this. A lot of what, as an overview of narcissistic abuse, a major issue is how much control they have over all the aspects of our lives, how much control they have over manipulating and changing our belief systems about ourselves through the programming that happens when someone repeatedly does something to you over and over and over while you are bonded to them in a loving way. It's awful and it's toxic, and it's as an overview, that's an important piece to remember. We have to take our own control back slowly over all the parts of your life. It's not one thing. That's why it takes so long to heal from. It's not one thing. It's there in all the parts of your life, right? So, okay, what are you guys saying? Attacking your manhood or womanhood if you don't do what they want. Yes, they do. Oh, Kat, hello. You retracted your message. I don't know what you said. Mine would give me gifts other people gave him. Well, yeah, because why put thought into it and spend any money, right? All right. Anything else, you guys? I'm sure there's a ton more that I'm missing here. Like I said, I didn't really plan this one out. I just decided to come on and talk. Overview of what else? What else? Anything else? No, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Nope, not coming to me because I've hit the 45-minute mark and there she goes. All right. Any questions you guys have? Anything else you want to talk about? Let me know. Mine would spend a lot of money to cover up for the lack of love. Oh yeah. You didn't miss us. We were just talking about an overview of Jack of narcissistic abuse and the different parts of your life that it gets into and how it gets in there. And so anything you want to add, I will read. Otherwise, if you have any questions or anything that's going on with you, or you guys want to say anything, tomorrow I'm going to talk about thriving. Yay! We're going to bring it up to the positive because I feel like that's good and it was suggested to me. So we're going to do that. Do we have all day? Well, we got about 10 minutes. Hit me with just some words, Jack, like list some words. And if you want, and if I haven't covered it, I'll go, oh, and I'll say it before I end here. Anything else, you guys? I'm not thinking of anything off the top of my head. I think I'm good. You guys good? All right. Thriving sounds good. So positive. Yes. We all need to focus that way, right? So yeah, thriving being doesn't necessarily mean you've healed all the way. So it doesn't necessarily mean everything's perfect in your life, that things are going well, that everything is, you can be thriving and still be feeling like you don't know what's going on. All right. Thriving is an interesting one. And we'll talk about that because thriving is a mindset. We go from feeling like a victim when we don't know what's happening to being a survivor, right? When we know what's happening and we are fighting, we're fighting and fighting to get out. We're fighting to exist first, and then we have to fight to get out, or we have to fight ourselves not to go back in, right? With no contact, and we're constantly in this state of holding on by the, gripping, holding on. When you're able to let go and you're able to move forward without that holding on, that something bad's going to happen, that clawing your way to the top feeling, and you're able to let yourself move forward very fluidly without that, you start to thrive. You can still be way down at the bottom and start thriving. Or bottom, but meaning you don't think your life is going the way that you want it to. That doesn't mean you're not thriving. It's the mindset of thriving that we're talking about. It's the mindset of not needing to cling to the fact that this is really hard. This is really hard. You know, like if you can let go of the fact that healing is hard and just heal, then you're thriving. Okay. You're beginning to thrive. You're creating a thriver mindset, because people who are thriving aren't thinking about how hard it is. They're just doing it. Right. So that's what we want to talk about tomorrow. Probably early tomorrow. I have a busy day tomorrow. So probably early Pacific, like 8 or 9 Pacific, if I can squeeze it in. That's my aim. Okay. For tomorrow. Okay. Subtle coercion, you're saying? Subtle coercion is a good one. Yeah. Gift giving. Yes, we covered that. They sleep a lot at first. Micro sleeps. Yes. Okay. All right, you guys, I'm going to end now and get on with this day. Actually, I need to go anyway, looking at the time. So yeah, 8 is in the AM, morning time Pacific tomorrow. This is me going, do I really want to get up that early? 8 or 9. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at my calendar before I come on like I always plan to, but I know I have stuff in the early after. I have stuff by 11. So let's say between 8 and 10 somewhere. We'll be here tomorrow, early tomorrow. I'll aim closer to 10. How's that? 9:30, 9:45. Okay. Yeah. All right. Good. All right. Anything else? Okay, you guys, take care. If you have not hit subscribe, please do so. If you enjoy this program, hit the thumbs up. If you'd like the topic, whatever. If you would like text notifications before I go live, text me at 33222. Put the word Lise Live, LISELIVE, in the text. Send it, and I will send you a text 10 minutes before I go live. It's the only text I send. That's it. You guys have a lovely evening or day, depending where you are in the world or when you're watching this. And take care, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.